You ready? Okay. Welcome, everyone. Glad you're here for our planning and zoning meeting for September 23rd, 2024. And I first want to make sure I've told Lacey you're on Zoom. Are you with us? Oh, okay. Lacey, are you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, got you now.
Okay.
Thank you. Just want to make sure you were there. All right. As normal, we'll jump right in this evening. Start with the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting from August 26th, 2024. If you've had time to review those notes and minutes, if you find any adjustments or corrections that need to be made, or we would entertain a motion for approval. Susan first.
Second.
And second, go ahead and roll call when you get a moment there, please. Megan?
Howard Goldberg,
Aye.
Caleb Burger,
Aye.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Trevor Branch,
Aye.
Chad Ziegler,
Aye.
Pete Renfro,
Aye.
Susan Daniel,
Aye.
Lacey Goldberg,
Aye.
and Joe Harrison.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With no scheduled visitors or guests and no unfinished business to attend to, we'll move right on into our new business. Letter A, which is a variance request. Location is 700 South 11th Street and Phase 2 of Finley Crossing subdivision. Applicant requests a variance to transfer the required buffer yard to the property to the south in order to construct additional parking spaces and a drive aisle. Cameron, if you would, please.
Yes, we have a variance request to a buffer yard requirement. This is in regards to location here in the Finley Crossing subdivision and the North Slope Apartments just over off of 9th Street in that area of 9th and 11th. Currently, there is a buffer yard that's required, buffer yard B, on both sides of the property line. So the North Slope Apartment side would be required to have a buffer yard. And then in addition, the Finley Crossing subdivision would be required to have that buffer yard. Looking at that, this image is just kind of reflective of what the typical buffer yard B looks like. It is 25 feet wide. It requires a 6-foot high fence on the property line or between the properties. And then plantings every 100 feet along the property line, calculated at 2 canopy trees, 2 understory trees, 2 evergreen trees, and 15 shrubs per 100 feet. In the city code section 405-780B, it does allow the commission to consider granting a variance to the buffer yard requirement as long as the applicant is showing that they're promoting creativity in regards to some of the hardships that they are having. In addition, it does refer to making sure that the application does conform to the alternative landscape plan requirements. Again, the applicant's variance request is to relocate the 25-foot buffer yard that's on the north side of the property line to the south. So there would be a total width of a 50-foot buffer yard south of the property line. They are proposing 2 options for the commission to consider. In addition to that, they are proposing 9 additional trees that would be above and beyond what's in the ordinance requirement. In looking at the 2 options they've proposed, option A, the difference in this, and I'll let the applicant further explain this when they come up. One scenario is looking at having a retaining wall at that property line location, roughly around the property line because of the topography there. Option B is basically the same buffer yard, except they want to slope the property as opposed to building that retaining wall. Either one, staff feels would be an acceptable solution to the buffer yard. In this variance request considerations for the commission to consider, one is option A or B, which one would be preference. There is a discussion or concern of 11th Street right-of-way dedication. That discussion isn't relevant to the buffer yard request as far as the city is concerned. Does the proposed solution promote creativity? Consideration of site constraints. There's a parking and drive aisle that the North Slope Apartments are planning to provide just to help with fire service access to circulate the property. It is not required, but we are asking that remain outside the buffer yard, which they're proposing. And then in considering the alternative landscape plans. So things that can be considered in that, space limitations, topography, streams, rock formation challenges, the applicability and safety concerns, allowing existing mature and healthy vegetation to be preserved, and additional landscaping and tree plantings are elsewhere on the site. So considering that for this buffer yard variance request, those are kind of the items to look at. And at this point, I'll be happy to answer any questions or turn over to the applicant.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. Is the applicant present? Would like to go ahead and speak in part to that?
We're both eager.
Okay, that's fine.
John McCart, 683 Oldfield Road, Oldfield, Missouri, Great River Engineering.
And Todd Chandler, 231 Rock Point Drive, Walnut Shade, Missouri, Great River Engineering as well.
So I will try to run through this quick presentation we kind of put together, explain what we're trying to provide here. So a little bit about the existing conditions that we have is, and real quick, I do want to commend, we have two property owners that are trying to develop two projects that are, adjacent to one another, and they're working together to solve both issues on both parties' sides. So, that usually doesn't happen. And so, and I think that hopefully this solution can provide them with both what they need to keep the projects moving forward. So on North Slope apartment side, the real reason that we're asking for this is if that bullet point number 2, currently there's 31 feet from the property line to the existing apartment building. With that 25 foot, that would only limit him 6 foot to do the improvements that he needs to get additional parking, and a drive aisle and so forth. And we all know that 6 foot is not going to cut it. So working with the adjacent property owner of Finley Crossing, and moving that buffer yard over there, in addition to his already current 25 foot buffer yard, and putting it all on one property would still get us that the 50 foot that you guys require. And in addition to that, you can kind of see down there that in the preliminary plat, he is currently required to get 6 canopy trees, 6 understory trees, 6 evergreen trees, and 45 shrubs in that area that we're talking about where the variance would be. And 56 feet from where the back of the building, the new residential home could potentially be on that, with that layout, would be 56 feet to the apartment complex. So I'll kind of show you, the current layout. You'll see right there that that's just a quick sketch put together. It shows you what we're providing if this variance wasn't to go through, and kind of how the layout would be. Unfortunately, for North Slope apartments, they wouldn't be able to do anything. So the buffer yard would kind of, without pulling a permit, would just kind of be inactive at that point until he found another solution. And then you can kind of see there too, the 56 feet from where the building could be placed in accordance with that 25 foot buffer yard that's already been approved with the preliminary plat for Finley Crossing, and then what we have with North Slope. So with option A, talking with Megan and Cameron, we kind of talked through some scenarios, and we just thought it'd be best to provide everything that we had talked with and let you guys kind of give us your feedback. So option A was a retaining wall to mitigate that topography, and we thought it'd be good to be a part of the buffer yard. And I know that these are just pictures that we pulled off that kind of show what we're trying to accomplish. These rock walls are similar to one of the rock walls that are out there with Finley Crossing, so I think that would kind of match very nicely. We also looked at these other ones that kind of had like a tier step to it. Thought that would be nice to incorporate some of the plantings inside those. But with option A, you'd have the retaining wall. You would get the 50 foot that is required. It would just all be on Finley Crossing. You'd have the 6 foot fence on top of that retaining wall at the edge of the buffer yard. 15 canopy trees, 15 evergreen trees, 15 understories, and 90 shrubs in that 315 foot span that the variance would include. There is 9 additional trees. Looking at it, you're already so limited on how much space that you have, and we're knocking that buildable area on the Finley Crossing down to 3,000 square feet. So afraid that we continue to put more and more trees, that they're just going to be choking each other out. And we don't want to take anything further away from the buildable area that's already impacting Finley Crossing. So an important note is you're going to have 94.5 feet from the residential home to the apartments. That's the closest it can get because we can't build it within inside that 50 foot buffer. So you're gonna go from 50 so much feet to 94, which is, we feel like is a good solution, and it only helps. So here's a quick sketch that, you know, Cameron had already showed you guys, basically showing you how far that comes back, where our buildable area is on those 5 lots. Now, if you'll notice over to the, I guess that's the east, the far right on your screen, that buffer yard kind of kicks back up. The reason why is because we're not providing an easement to get him additional footage that he needs to get that 13-foot drive lane and the retaining wall and so forth. So you're still getting the 50-foot on that far, I think that's lot 67, the 5th lot to the right. And so we would, and the layout there is just for visual. That's not set in stone how we're gonna make the plantings happen and so forth. So here's a typical section. You'll see the retaining wall and just kind of the layout of, you know, how far that buffer yard is. And you can see at the very top, I mean, actually you probably can't, but that's that 94.5 feet that we're talking about. That's going to be from the existing apartment structure all the way to the back of the building area. So that's as close as those structures would be allowed to be together. So you're going to go from 54 to 94.5. And we think that's a big positive. So then we're going to go to option B. Now this is our preferred option. We think that it could be aesthetically more pleasing than a retaining wall. What that would be is a sloped yard, and, you know, incorporating rocks, stones that would go back up. They kind of help with the grade, put plantings in there. And, you know, it would just give it a nice, more natural feature. You'd still get the 50-foot buffer yard, and it would all, again, be on Finley Crossing, 6-foot fence. And that fence would occur on the buffer yard boundary, and then the 15 canopy, 15 evergreen, 15 understory, 90 shrubs. And again, that's the 9, and it includes the 9 additional trees that's addition to the buffer requirement. On this one, it's a little bit less. You go from 94.5 to 89 feet from the 2 structures. The reason being is because we don't need that additional easement for the retaining wall. And that also helps out Finley Crossing on the buildable lot. So it gives them a little bit more area to build their homes. I know it's only 8 feet, but, you know, every inch counts. So that's option B. And then we're going to go into the plan view of that. Same thing, layout. You can see that the lots, buildable areas, they do increase a little bit. Same layout for North Slope. And here's the typical view. You can kind of see how it lays out, and then the distance from where the Finley Crossing would be allowed to build the residence to where the existing apartment complex is. So, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, I'm glad you didn't start that timer, because I know I would have went over 5 minutes.
You want to offer any more?
The only thing I'll add to John's presentation is what that drive aisle on the south side of the apartment complex gives the owner is the flexibility for the fire department to basically come in, circle around the apartment complex without having to turn around. So it actually frees up some available area so he could potentially put another building in. So that's one thing to kind of, with the fire truck turnaround requirements, those typically require like a 96-foot diameter cul-de-sac in order for them to have a fire turnaround, or 120-foot basically hammerhead, which is very problematic. So we feel that there's a great solution. It's 2 property owners that are working together to still accomplish everything. You know, I know it's called a variance, but really we're not varying anything across what the requirements are in the code. It's just, we're just seeking approval of the placement of the buffer yard on all on Finley Crossing property, which are, you know, our client, the developer on the Finley Crossing project, is looking to provide.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
With that, we'll answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll call you back up if need be. Thank you. Well, moving on, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public if there's anyone that wants to comment towards this application for a variance. Anyone else like to speak? Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and open it up to the commission for questions, comments, or anything. Go ahead.
I've got 2. I don't know if it's just ours that it's hard to see, but what is the square footage of these lots that are here, these 5 lots? I know you've got the buildable area square footage in there, but I just can't see the
There are
total.
minimum lot size at 8,000 square feet
Okay,
for the RS.
Right. okay. And then what, if either option, what percentage of that lot then would be buffer yard versus like usable space for the potential homeowner?
They're very deep lots. They're skinny and deep lots.
Okay.
So, I mean, it still provides, what was the footprint on it? I think the buildable area is like 3,000 square feet.
Right,
Those lots are actually 10,000 square feet.
The one on the far left, the first one on the left
It's a
street,
little
is
more.
around 12,000 square feet. And
Right.
the other one's right around the 8,000. You don't have very much wiggle room.
Right.
That's why we couldn't really do a lot line adjustment.
right,
So with option A, the one that takes the most square footage away that they can build on, it's just over 3,000 roughly for each of those lots.
mm-hmm,
And then the other one gets into about 3,500 square feet for each of those lots.
gotcha,
So on average, these houses are probably, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet.
okay. Gotcha,
So, just to piggyback, were you done? I don't mean to interrupt. If you had another one, go ahead.
No, it was the total square footage and then the percentage. Those are the two.
Just to piggyback off that, to make sure I understand. Once if this is approved and the buffer is moved south, there's still 8,000 square foot per lot to meet the RSF one qualification, correct? Yeah, make sure I understand that, okay.
And let me clarify that a little bit. This actually, if approved, doesn't change the minimum lot size. It still will be that larger lot. Fortunately, in this case, the subdivision, these are actually fairly large lots. So we did look at a scenario of being doing a lot line adjustment, but that takes a lot of rezoning. And even if they did a lot line adjustment to move that property line south 50 feet, they would still be left with a minimum lot size to conform to the zoning. So at the end of the day, even if whether approved or not, they'll still conform to the minimum lot size requirements.
Okay, thank you.
I remember
Go ahead.
so maintenance of the buffer yard, is that gonna be on each homeowner then?
That'll fall under the HOA.
HOA, okay.
Yep.
All right. And then what are
They haven't.
so is the homeowner subject to the HOA of that buffer area then?
That's correct.
Okay. So they couldn't go in and plant more if they wanted to on their,
They could. So the way the ordinance works is it falls to the HOA. If they for some reason dissolve, then it will fall to all the homeowners in that subdivision.
okay.
So
And is there any, has the HOA already been established?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I know that's one of the items that's underway.
Sure.
It hasn't been formed yet. It's obviously.
Yeah.
To the final plat stage.
And obviously this doesn't affect all the lots in the subdivision. I'm just thinking of how it affects those particular homeowners. Just thinking of any kind of after effects.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chad, go ahead.
I just got a question for staff, just more curiosity than anything, but with the increase of the buffer yard from essentially from 25 feet to 50 feet on that southern property, does that affect the preliminary plat in any way, or would it be still substantially conforming or would they have to redo the preliminary plat?
yeah, no, it won't affect the preliminary plat, but what we'll do if this is approved is when they go to final plat, we will note a 50-foot wide buffer yard on final plat. Yep.
So you're here tonight actually representing both property owners, correct? So typically, if it was put in as originally notated on, 50 on it or 25 on each side, the cost of each side would have been the apartment owner and the Finley Crossings owner, right? How's that working now? Now it's all moving. I mean, is it still a split cost? I'm just curious.
They're splitting the costs.
Okay.
They're, kind of working through those details.
Mhm.
Obviously, the person that's developing the southern property owns his own excavation.
Mhm.
So that helps, that he can do a lot of the work himself, obviously, especially with, you've seen how much dirt and rock.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else, I think it would have broke, but luckily, he's got his staff that is able to do that. But they are, we're gonna work with the city as well as both developers together to, pick out the correct trees and all that. So
Mhm.
that's part of the process, honestly.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else on commission have any questions or comments?
I just had more comment, I know, because we need to kind of consider option A or option B, you know, kind of with just the flooding. I know we're doing a lot of stuff kind of with water retention, things like that. I think you gentlemen had mentioned that the option B was better for the water because you didn't have the set wall there, because you could naturally kind of go down as it. So, I mean, that would just be something for the commission to consider. Is I agree with that thought, just kind of knowing that when you have that firm wall. So kind of when we're looking, you know, I think that's a preference for option B as well.
Right.
Yeah, and on option B, one thing we're gonna do too is we're gonna make sure that none of the impervious, so rooftop and drain, they all drain back to the street and into the detention system and not to, north.
Mhm.
So that helps with the sloping as well too.
Right.
So we're able to control that. Obviously, pitch the roof drains towards the Pebblebrook Drive and then, same thing on the drive.
So when to create this wider drive-through, there's no, well, how do I ask that? Is it safe to say we're simply widening the parking lot really to give room for on the south side of the parking for the building for the equipment to be moved through, or would it ever be considered a street application of some sort?
It's a drive aisle.
It's just a drive, one way.
One way. Yep.
Okay, okay.
Basically, we're giving them a path, the fire department a path to get out and then utilize some angled parking. We can't even do straight in parking because obviously that would take a lot more room. So it's 15-foot wide access aisle, which I think is it 13 or something? Yeah, minimum city code is 12 feet. So
Okay.
we coordinated with the fire department to see what they would allow as far as
All right.
minimum width. Settle on 13 feet.
Okay, okay, thanks. Yes, sir.
Got just a question about clarification. The commission, we're just gonna vote on a variance, whether to approve the variance to move the buffer yards. We don't need to vote or decide on A or B. I mean, they can choose whichever option they want.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking about that. That was to be determined, but maybe you don't get hooked in on the option. Just allow for them to be creative and use either one of the two. Because once again, design, they may find like, because the one example they had in their presentation actually incorporates some little walls. In option B, on our scenario, it doesn't have any walls. So I think just allowing them the option to use either one would be great.
Okay, good question. Thank you. Anyone else? Commission, go ahead.
I had a quick question. As far as the retirement community, just to the north of the apartments there, what kind of structures or buffers is there going to be between the apartment complex and the retirement community? So right now, there should, if I'm understanding right, there should be that buffer, but we're proposing to move it from the north side between those two plots to the south. So I was just kind of curious.
We didn't look into that. That was kind of outside of this.
Yeah. So this is really just addressing the buffer yard on that south side between these two developments. When they further develop the North Slope apartments to the east, they will have an additional buffer to deal with on the north side. Right now, we're not asking for a variance on that. I don't know what the code requires on those two zonings, but they'd have to accommodate the code for the required buffer yard on that north property line.
Go ahead and have a seat. I think we're about to get there. So just to clarify, we're going to vote on the variance, period, and let the owners of the properties decide A or B then, correct?
Yeah, a way to kind of think about it, the property line is somewhat of an arbitrary line in this situation. At the end of the day, they're still providing the full 50 feet in width. It's just moving that to the south. And so, yes, you'd vote on the variance to grant this variance. And if you need to identify A or B option, you can, but just to grant the variance on the buffer yard requirement per the application, if you will,
Right.
staff report.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? If you haven't spoke, I'm gonna call your name. Pete, you okay? Suzanne? Caleb?
I'm good.
I think you spoke.
If you want to check with Lacey.
Okay. Lacey, how about you? You got any questions or comments?
I do not. I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Then we're looking for a,
I'll move to approve
Motion.
the variance based on staff recommendation.
we have a
The number,
second.
hold on.
Okay. go ahead.
Yes, the variance request, there's not a number with it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call when you're ready.
Adam Brown,
Aye.
Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Kathy Goldberg.
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel.
Aye.
Travis Dickerson.
Aye.
Caleb Burger.
Aye.
Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Lacy Colbert.
Aye.
Trevor Rayner.
Aye.
Guys.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate everything. Appreciate you being here. All right, letter B. The annexation 24-0003. Property location is 1505 South 17th Street. The southern approximately 26-acre parcel bordered by South 20th Street on the west, West South Street on the south, and South 17th Street to the east. Owner is Elk Valley LLC. Cameron, when you're ready.
Yes, this is the annexation of approximately 26 acres, 1505 South 17th Street. Just for reference, this property is just to the north of the Walmart and Lowe's shopping area, the vacant field, the farm field that you see on the north side of South Street. In reviewing the annexation application, the property is compact and contiguous to the city limits of Ozark. The property can be serviced by city water and sewer. There's an existing 12-inch water main on the southeast corner of the property and an existing 8-inch sewer main on the southeast corner of the property. The property is within the urban service area Tier 1, an agreement we have with the county. And then based on the staff report findings, all requirements have been met for the annexation request. Be happy to answer any questions, and an applicant representative is here in the audience.
Okay, thank you. And would the applicant like to come speak towards this, please? Your name and address, if you would, please.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Caleb Freeland. My address is 1313 Southwest Bypass, Clinton, Missouri. I'm speaking as the owner's representative. As Cameron mentioned, all utilities are readily accessible to property. So I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, and what was your name again, sir? I'm sorry.
Caleb.
Caleb, okay. Wait, if I can call you back up, I'll use my username. Thank you. Does that have a red light? Oh, it's green? No wonder I can't see it.
It's down on the bottom.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Well, we'll take this opportunity to go ahead and open it up for anyone that would like to speak towards this annexation application. Open it for anyone that would like to speak. Don't everybody come at once. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public portion and open it up to commission for questions or comments. Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure that I'm looking at this right. So it does not go all the way down to Rock Hill Road. And then, but it does kind of connect, the annexation goes all the way over to 17th Street. Okay. And then why is the gap there? I don't know if this is a question I can ask. What's this building right here that's not part of that? Because it's like a weird, the lines are weird kind of in the back. So what's that white thing there? Is that like a well house or?
So there's a cell tower.
Oh, that's the cell tower. Okay, that's why. Okay, all right. Thank you.
And those property lines that are extending north are plans for future stormwater.
Okay,
Basin.
awesome. Thank you.
Anyone else? The floor is yours if you want it. Pete, you good? I don't want to hurry anyone. Go ahead and look. You're sure? Okay. If everybody's good, we'll be looking for a motion.
Do you want to check with Lacy to make sure?
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I did it again. Lacy, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for checking.
I don't mean to forget you. Okay, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve annexation -24-003 for approval based on staff recommendations.
I'll second.
You know what's next.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Lacy Colbert.
Aye.
Kathy Goldberg.
Aye.
Caleb Burger.
Aye.
Suzanne Daniel. Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Travis Dickerson.
Aye.
Guys.
Thank you very much. Letter C is the zoning amendment 24-0013, property location, same as above, but I'll read it anyway. 1505 South 17th Street, the southern approximately 26-acre parcel bordered by South 20th Street on the west, West South Street on the south, and South 17th Street to the east. Property owner Elk Valley LLC. The existing zoning was A1 agricultural district in the county. The requested zoning, now that with it being asked to be annexed, would be a C2 general commercial district. Mr. Smith.
Yes, the application is to rezone the 1505 South 17th Street from A1 Agriculture Zoning District to C2 General Commercial. This is the following application for the annexation we just considered. In looking at the zoning amendment, the property is currently vacant. The surrounding zoning is agriculture and vacant to the north, commercial to the east, commercial to the south, and residential to the west across Highway 65. The property can be serviced by city water and sewer. Additional development will require a storm hydrology report and traffic impact study to be completed to identify any warranted requirements. The property shall comply with 65 Highway Overlay District and the Transportation Overlay District once it's developed. In looking at the consideration for zoning applications, running through the 5 findings of facts, the relatedness of the proposed amendment to the goals as outlined in the city comprehensive plan. Goal number 1 is to provide opportunity for future growth. And with that, the objective number 1 is manage growth in a manner that creates a compact and contiguous development patterns. This application does abut to city property to the east and south and would be compact and contiguous. In looking at objective number 12, ensure future development is compatible with adjoining streets. The West-South Street or Business 65 is a primary arterial. South 20th Street is a commercial street, and South 17th Street is a secondary arterial. All are suitable street classifications for commercial zoning and development. In economic goal number 1, attract new businesses and visitors to the city. The commercial development of this application of the parcel would provide opportunities for new businesses here in Ozark. The future land use map. The land use map plan does recommend a future land use of commercial. This application would accommodate that request. In looking at item number 2, the existing uses of the property within the general area of the property in question. The existing use again to the south and east are commercial. The residential property to the west is separated by Highway 65, and the property to the north is an unincorporated portion in the county and will be agriculture. In item 3, the zoning classification of the property within the general area of the property. The requested zoning of C2 does align with the existing zoning classifications of commercial to the south and east. The property to the north, as it is undeveloped at this time, will remain agriculture. And again, the residential to the west is on the other side of Highway 65. Item number 4, the suitability of the property in question to the uses permitted under the existing zoning classification. The current zoning of the property is agriculture in the county, which doesn't align for the highest and best use of this parcel. The commercial development would be an appropriate and desirable use for this property given its location along the major corridors and the surrounding developments. Additionally, the property would not be able to develop under the existing urban service area ordinance in agreement with the county. In item 5, lastly, the trends of development, if any, in the general area of this property in question, including changes, if any, which have taken place in the present zoning classification. Commercial development has occurred within this area, and there has been interest by commercial developers to develop this property for several years. This property being located at the intersection of major highway interchange makes it desirable for commercial development. And then in addition, that the applicant did have the required neighborhood meeting, and the summary was in the packet. The concerns noted by some of the neighbors was the tree removal of the existing tree line along the property line, concerns of seeing development from their property, concerns of decreased in property value, and then concerns of children's safety and increased traffic. The applicant didn't provide a response to some of the concerns noted, and then based on the staff recommendations, all requirements have been met for the approval of the zoning application. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Cameron. Caleb, would you like to add to anything he said at this point? You good? Okay. Okay. Well, as is a custom, we'll open up the public portion of this to anyone that might make a comment. And I'll close it just as quick as I opened it, looks like. All right, very good. And I'll open it up to commission for any questions and comments. Any discussion?
I just want to know if Suzanne surveyed this property. It's, I'm Not sure what happened there, but anyway.
She dropped her pen. I would like, Cameron, if you could clarify, if you have that information handy, just so everyone knows the ownership of 17th, 20th and South Street as far as the improvements that may come to those streets because of the development, and who would be involved in that.
Yeah, so staff has had a few meetings on this property as this application. We've been working on this for several months now. And including that, we've been coordinating with the Ozark Special Road District, who owns and maintains 17th Street, and MoDOT, who owns and maintains 20th Street and South Street. So they are in the know of this project. They've been giving some feedback, comments to city staff and the applicant representative as well. The existing stoplight at 19th is kind of somewhat set up for this future development. There's an existing light at 17th and South. And then on 20th Street, I'm not sure if there's improvements that will be aware of at this time or required. There has been some discussions about potentially converting 20th to right in, right out, but we have yet to get the confirmation on that for sure because they haven't gotten into design. Staff is hoping to see a preliminary plat on this property to bring before the commission in the next month or two.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say, I mean, there needs to be more commercial. I mean, over by Walmart, if you notice, like, it seems like all the plots are being filled up. Jersey Mike's went in, and I mean, it's done really well. Five Below's gone in, and it's gone really well. So I think there's a need for some more commercial space down in this area. So I'm clearly voting for this.
Thank you. Anyone else? Give me a thumbs up if you're good, I guess, or I can ask twice. All right, very good. We'll be looking for a motion.
Check with Lacey.
Like, yeah, I did it again. You're gonna fire me, Lacey, for it's all.
No, I am good. I think this is a really good plan for this area.
Thank you very much. Okay, now let's get a
I'll
motion.
move to approve zoning amendment 24-0013, changing the existing zoning from A1 to C2 based on staff recommendation.
I'll second. Caleb Burke.
Aye.
Susan Newton. Trevor Brand.
Aye.
Keith Renfro.
Aye.
Jeff Garrison.
Aye.
Lacy Colbert.
Hi.
Alan Goldberg.
Aye.
Adam Burke.
Aye.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you, commissioners. Well, there's not much left. Okay. Discussion, we can kind of roll that in the same thing as commission comments. Anyone have anything they'd like to say? Mr.
I
Goldberg.
always do, sorry. Hey, big win for the football team for Ozark this week over Webb City. We're away at Waynesville, and there's 2 more home games, and that's it for the season. Come out to tailgating. It's really a great atmosphere. It's kind of like back how it was a couple of years ago, and just make sure you're wearing red on Fridays. Even if you're not in Ozark on Fridays, wear red. That's all I got.
Anyone else? I guess we'll move to staff. Cameron.
No comments, but we are still reviewing and working to have on the agenda the next meeting, the presentation of the corridor study. Megan and I are due to owe comments back to the applicant by the end of the week. So we're working on that now, and it's 160 some pages, but about 80 pages is the content of the report, and the rest is the appendices. So, but we're looking at that, and then we're also evaluating to have the applicant, or not the applicant, but the consultant come in person to present that to the commission as opposed to Zoom.
Thank you. Megan.
I'm working with, OSRP's representative, so potentially talk about traffic accidents, having a good overview. They did it for, earlier, or last week.
Okay, yeah, I look forward to that. That'd be great. Mr. Mayor.
What she said about the traffic study, it was very informative, and I'm glad the city council went there. And I'm very excited about the future development here as this one property. City of Ozark.
Thank you. Well, that leaves us one thing, I believe.
Move to adjourn.
Second? I'll second. I'll second. And they all said. All right.
I thought you were making a statement.